This is feedback for Pompeii, particularly for the short answer questions for Pompeii. Question 4 was worth 3 marks, and what does source A and B reveal about the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79? You must refer specifically to both sources, source A and source B. This was a 3-mark question, so you needed to have maybe some common features of both sources, as well as differentiating between the two sources as well. So this response here from Joe was source A and B reveal that the eruption had an impact on both Pompeii and Herculaneum. Source A indicates during phase 1 of the eruption, ash deposits completely covered Pompeii whilst not covering Herculaneum. However, source B revealed that Herculaneum was covered by a large extent of pyroclastic flow, which covered the city. Moreover, both sources reveal that the eruption had different phases, including deposits of ash and pyroclastic flow. So this last part here was a common element, so stepping back a little bit and looking at how we can divide up those the points from that response. It's important here to remember too that it showed more than just Pompeii and Herculaneum on the map. There were other cities as well that were listed, which we can see that there was an impact there as well. In terms of the multiple choice, I won't go through each of them individually. Most of them were quite simple. However, this question 7 was quite challenging and people had a lot of trouble with it. Only 2 people got this right, and the correct answer is D, which is 3 and 4. So which of the following 2 statements best explains the usefulness of source E for an historian? It comments that religion was a sacred refuge, and it does. It mentions that it comes down to a matter of semantics. It comes down to saying that religion was something that was sacred and safe in the household. It also comments that the lararium was important in household worship. Now, most people could figure out that 4 was correct, but they didn't get 3 because it did come down to a matter of the wording used. It doesn't mention, even though this is, I suppose, correct 1, it says it comments that religion was popular and respected in every house. It doesn't say that. Actually, that's something that's true, but it doesn't say that in the source. And that's something that the source is not useful for, because it doesn't say that. People were picking up on this every part, and they jumped on the back of that, but that's not what it was. And it comments that the household was focused on religion. It doesn't say that. It says that religion was, was safe in the house and was about the safety of the house, but it does not say that. So you have to be really careful about what does the source actually say. Question 8, using sources C, D and E in your own knowledge, outline the main features of religion in Pompeii and Herculaneum. Again, you must refer specifically to all 3 of those to get the marks. So the main features of religion in Pompeii and Herculaneum were private and public worship. Public worship was significant in pleasing the gods for the betterment of the city and would take place at temples such as the Temple of Vespasian in source D. Here, sacrifices would be made to indicate omens and erudite goodwill. Public religion also influenced the Greek and Egyptian cultures. This is evident through the Temple of Isis, source C, and the Temple of Apollo at the Forum. So some of your own knowledge and some knowledge from the source there to support what was being said. Public religion was usually centered at the Capitolineum, where Juno, Jupiter, and Minerva were worshipped. Private worship was also a prominent feature of religion in Pompeii and Herculaneum. This would be centered in the home, source C, and around the lararium. Here, Genius, Penates, and I can't read that, were worshipped for fertility and good health. The importance of this was elucidated when archaeologists found reliefs of Lares with victims of Vesuvius, indicating the inextricable attachment of individuals shared with their gods. So again, this is a 6-mark question outlining those key areas, and this was got 6 marks because it did have all 3 sources used specifically, as well as a variety of the own sources as well. The last question was really quite challenging. If you have a look at the question, there's more going on than probably most of you realise. The question says that we have to look at Italian and international contributions, and not many people did both of those. You had to look at specifically conservation and reconstruction, and you need to differentiate between the 2. You also had to make sure that you reference both Pompeii and Herculaneum, not one or the other, and you also had to look at just the last 2 decades. What a lot of you did wrong was spent far too much time talking about Esther Laser and Sarah Beesel, specifically about things like new techniques and technology and how that was as a part of it, which isn't what the question's asking about. It's about conserving and reconstructing, and you needed to have specific examples of groups that were doing that, both in Italy and international groups as well. So this wasn't a full mark response. This was 9 out of 10, but it was the closest to a full mark response we had in the class. Since the last 2 decades, Italian and international contributions to conservation and reconstruction have been of profound significance to Pompeii and Herculaneum. For instance, the Herculaneum Conservation Project has pioneered a range of extensive procedures that have effectively conserved Herculaneum without hindering reconstruction. These include emergency and preventative conservation. For example, emergency conservation such as erecting roofing over fading facades and allowing for the continued conservation of the artefacts. Moreover, as insinuated in source F, so specific reference, the project is moving rapidly to greatly conserve the human remains at the site. This has been profound in allowing for both conservation and reconstruction to happen as bodies are being preserved and studied at the same time. For instance, skeletal remains are being kept in appropriate storage facilities. Moreover, as seen in source G, restoration work has been undertaken in Herculaneum to enhance our understanding of the boat sheds and beachfronts of the city. This has been profound in enabling archaeologists to collaborate with a multidisciplinary team of experts to greater reconstruct and conserve both sites. Such collaborating is also facilitated by the Pompeian Forum Project and the House of Pompeii Project, which aim to reconstruct the buildings in Pompeii. Whilst Hadrill comments that these projects are significant as they allow reconstruction to happen without damaging the artefacts. For instance, the Palestra Capitolinum and the building of Yarmakia are being analysed to ensure greater conservation. Such effectiveness can also be seen when examining the Anglo-American project. This intervention contribution has been remarkable to the reconstruction of the House of the Vestals and the House of the Surgeon, whilst read that to the conservation methods necessary for the site. For example, stratigraphic excavation has been effective in the reconstruction of part of Pompeii without hindering its conservation. Italian contributions have also been effective. For instance, Neapolis, alongside the Italian Central Institute for Cataloguing, have implemented an extensive documentation process that aims to better reconstruct the frescoes and mosaics at the site. The Italian government has also increased funding and raised awareness for conservation. For example, it has been the House of the Via dell'Abbondanza from tourism to greater conserve the site. This has since proven to be an effective area. Moreover, Italian archaeological experts such as Dr. Fabian Kantz have begun creating replicas of remains to reconstruct the past but also conserve the original remains. This has been remarkably significant to the conservation and reconstruction of the site. Italian experts have also reinforced something such as House of the Faun, the reconstruction of the capital lines of the Pompeii. These have also been affected. Hence, it is evident that in the last 2 decades, both international and Italian contributions have been remarkably significant to conserving and reconstructing both Pompeii and Herculaneum. So this was a 9 out of 10, which is quite a solid response. The comment was a good response with relevant examples and clear use of the source. You're a little vague on the actual conservation and reconstruction done by the Italians and the international teams, so it needed more examples of actually what was being done to conserve, saying that conservation efforts are happening but not saying what's actually being done to conserve the site, and that's where this one was let down a little bit, and if they'd done that, it would certainly have been a 10.